no, it's all right.
I usually
Something I
don't.
know how to do.
Is that going to be enough, do you think?
I don't know. No, that will be.
Yeah.
And my lighting, this particular matches what I was referring to.
Oh. There we go.
Yeah,
You
no,
know
the
what?
other should be fine.
Just want to check and see. Okay, that's pretty full.
Great. Ah, good, good, good.
Making sure it's there's the switch. There it is. And have you asked someone to light the candles, or you just want to?
I haven't asked anyone if someone.
Good morning. Today we're beginning with a sing-along prelude again, and this is our last week that we're going to do Lead with Love. Hopefully you feel a little more comfortable with it this week. And before we started today, I wanted to mention the composer of this song requests, she says of the song, this is a song that is not meant to be listened to. It is for all to be a part. So with that in mind today, let's sing it, and even if you feel like you don't know it as well as you would like, please just feel free to sing along today. All right. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lift up your eyes. Don't you despair. Look up ahead. The path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared. And I'm scared too. But here I am. Right next to you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Thank you.
Good day, mates. And when I say that, for those of you who are new, I'm Eric Meter, the congregation's lead minister, and I'm just back from a couple weeks in Australia, and boy, they talk loud down there. Good day, mates. Welcome everyone to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa, whether you are here with us in Worship Hall or watching from wherever you may be, know that you are welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa, your worship associate this morning. Let us begin with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabeg territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all those who have the willingness to understand, to be of service to those at risk, and to advocate for justice.
It is great to be back with all of you this morning. We sung before, let us rise and sing again, raising our voices in the spirit of being together this first gray Sunday in March. Let's give a little life to this day. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing When I Am Frightened, which is number 1012 in your teal hymnal. The words will also be on the screen above. In honor of March being Women's History Month and International Women's Day this Friday, we light our chalice this morning to these words by Betts Weinecke. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us. Our chalice is lit. Come, let us worship together. It says in your program that I am going to read something called On the Other Side of the World. I hadn't prepared to read anything, but I was titling this time on the other side, from the other side of the world. So I've got a couple of things. I'm going to need the help of this. Little show and tell. Can any of you show me, this is a globe, I don't know, it's a representation of the planet. Where are we? Can you show me where we are? Does anyone know? Because I need to know where I am. We're there. And 2 weeks ago, where was I? Not that it matters. I was way down. I lost me. I was way down there. How'd I get there? A really, really, really long plane ride. And I was there to meet someone I had never met. Friends of my family, my stepson's best friend and his now wife, had their first child in October. Do we have the slide? That's Lucas. Now, I'll tell everyone a bit of the story about this child and my family in a little bit, but my wife and I were there to play great godparents to this little guy. And boy, it was hard work. And what you might imagine about being on the whole other side of the world is they have different plants and animals than we do here. They don't have any squirrels. It was weird. It took me a few days to notice there were no squirrels. What I was looking forward to was seeing different stars up in the sky. What I hadn't anticipated was that some of the stars would be the same, but upside down. And one of the things that lives where I went, that is native nowhere else in the world, who knows what this might represent? I heard it, a duck-billed platypus. And I'm hoping that this little creature will help me tell stories in the future. But platypus doesn't feel like a good name. It feels a little odd. It's hard to say. It's kind of fun to say. But I'm wondering if you could help me name my new friend. So in the days to come, or even right now, if you would let me know a name for this critter, then the next time I'm up here, we can introduce him to you properly, or her. Wait, we got to get that in the microphone.
You could name him Perry from Phineas and Ferb, Perry the platypus.
Yes! Oh. I was in Melbourne. I saw Sydney from the airplane, but that was about all. So I know you have other great artwork and things to do, so we're going to sing you out, but thank you for helping me find myself on the map, on the globe. And we've got one idea, which is a great idea. There may be other great ideas for naming our new friend as well. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
And now we turn to how we are together. As health challenges continue, do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email, welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. And if you are right here in Worship Hall with us this morning and would like more information, it is available at the welcome table at the back of the pews, and Agnes is there to answer any questions you may have. And now here's Chuck from our board to highlight some announcements for today. Chuck?
Good morning, everyone. Got a fair number of announcements here. Things have been busy here inside and outside. First, 2 notes from the Environmental Action Group. They want to remind us that it is seed time. Check the EnviroBits in the Climate Action page for information on local seedy events and seeds suitable for Ottawa's short, hot, that's what they say, I'd say warmish, summers. And second, the group is loving the mini pill bottles and mailing money going into our collection box in the office hallway. But remember, Earth Hub can only accept clean prescription pill bottles, so please make sure there are no labels or sticky stuff on the bottles. And vitamin supplement bottles can go in your city plastic recycling box. Thanks for your enthusiasm. This year, our annual tradition of Mystery Pals has a sweet twist. It will be all muffin themed. Mystery Pals is a fun Mystery Pal activity that runs for 4 Sundays in April and ends with a Discovery Muffin Social. We pair children and youth with adults for a month of Sunday morning correspondence through our Mystery Muffins post offices. I can attest to having participated. It's a lot of fun. The event will run for all 4 Sundays in April. Sign-up is today from March through March 17th. Find your Mystery Muffin bulletin board in the fellowship halls with sign-up forms and more information. Next, do you love Fall Fair? Who doesn't enjoy Fall Fair, right? Well, apply your planning and people skills to overseeing FirstU's biggest fundraising and community building event. The new director can count on a great team of seasoned volunteers and support of outgoing director Carol Card. And I must say this could be a co-directorship, has been pointed out as well. This is a suitable role for 2 people. Some experience with Fall Fair will be helpful. Please contact Carol or me if you'd like more information. There are 2 spaces still available to participate in what moves us. The 7-week program will be led by Reverends Eric Meter and Ann Orfold on Tuesday evenings beginning March 12th. Participants will reflect on how life experience of select historic and contemporary Unitarian Universalist theologians led them to a change of heart, a new direction, and a deeper understanding of our liberal faith. And a new fun-sounding activity that is going to be starting is Spiritual Tea Time. There is a new monthly in-person gathering called Spirituality Time. For more information on this, please check the EUU, which has lots of information about it. We encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter. Check our Facebook and Instagram pages and our website for notices and updates. Sign up for EUU can be done directly on the website, or you can just send the office an email. Our calendar continues to be full as ever, though some of our activities take place online. This morning, each of us is welcome. We of any heritage or faith, whatever our burdens, of any culture or race, of any gender or orientation, in any body, all that we are. Today, we're all part of this spiritual community. Welcome.
Thank you, Chuck. Each week we pause in our time together in recognition of both the joy and sorrows in our lives and the challenges across the globe. We honor our celebrations and challenges by placing stones in a bowl of water. As the ripples extend outward, we can imagine them continuing out beyond these small bowls, out through and past our pews, out into the larger community of all. Can you help? I've got a joy. It's great to be back home. Thank you. And a stone next for our former member Roger on the death of his beloved sister recently. A stone also for former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. While his legacy is a complex one, we live in a land and political climate he had a very strong hand in creating. Please come forward now if you have a stone to drop, a joy or sorrow or challenge to mark. Please come forward. That last stone, as always, is for what still remains in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. A caring card for Roger is at the back of our hall for us to sign. If you haven't, I encourage you to sign it after our service. Even if you don't know Roger, this is a way for us to expend our appreciation on behalf of those who have been such a vital part of this faith community. I invite you now, all of us, into a time of stillness and reflection After several moments, Jen will bring us back together through the gift of music.
Our reading this morning is from Bill Bryson's book. It's an excerpt from Bill Bryson's book, In a Sunburned Country. Flying into Australia, I realized with a sigh that I had forgotten again who their Prime Minister is. I am forever doing this with the Australian Prime Minister, committing the name to memory, forgetting it, generally more or less instantly, then feeling terribly guilty. My thinking is that there ought to be one person outside Australia who knows. But then Australia is such a difficult country to keep track of. On my first visit, some years ago, I passed the time on the long flight reading a history of Australian politics in the 20th century, wherein I encountered the startling fact that in 1967, the Prime Minister, Harold Holt, was strolling along a beach in Victoria when he plunged into the surf and vanished. No trace of the poor man was ever seen again. This seemed doubly astounding to me. First, that Australia could lose a prime minister. I mean, come on. And second, that news of this had never reached me. This is a country where interesting things happened, and all the time. Consider a newspaper story from 1997 buried away in the old stock drawer of Section C. In January of that year, scientists were seriously investigating the possibility that a mysterious seismic disturbance in the remote Australian outback almost 4 years earlier had been a nuclear explosion set off by members of the Japanese doomsday cult Shinrikyo. It happens that at 11:03 p.m. local time on May 28, 1993, seismograph needles all over the Pacific region twitched and scribbled in response to a very large-scale disturbance near a place called Benjawarn Station in the Great Victoria Desert of Western Australia. Some long-distance truckers and prospectors, virtually the only people out in that lonely expanse, reported seeing a sudden flash in the sky and hearing or feeling the boom of a mighty but far-off explosion. The problem was that there was no obvious explanation. The seismograph traces didn't fit the profile of an earthquake or mining explosion. And anyway, the blast was 170 times more powerful than the most powerful mining explosion ever recorded in Western Australia. The shock was consistent with a large meteor strike, but the impact would have blown a crater hundreds of feet in circumference, and no such crater could be found. The upshot is that scientists puzzled over the incident for a day or two, then filed it away as an unexplained curiosity, the sort of thing that presumably happens from time to time. Then, in 1995, Shinrikyo gained sudden notoriety when it released the nerve gas sarin into the Tokyo subway system, killing 12 people. In the investigations that followed, it emerged that substantial holdings included 500,000 acres desert property in Western Australia, very near the site of the mystery event. There, authorities found a laboratory of unusual sophistication and focus, and evidence that cult members had been mining uranium. It emerged that had recruited into its ranks 2 nuclear engineers from the former Soviet Union. The group's avowed aim was the destruction of the world, and it appears that the event in the desert may have been a dry run for blowing up Tokyo. You take my point, of course. This is a country that loses a prime minister and that is so vast and empty that a band of amateur enthusiasts could conceivably set off the world's first non-governmental atomic bomb on its mainland, and almost 4 years would pass before anyone noticed. Clearly, this is a place worth getting to know.
Today's anthem is the piece Warrior by Kim Barlick. This is also in honor of International Women's Day and not per se related to Eric's travels in Australia. This is a piece that was written after a well-publicized case of domestic violence in Winnipeg. And since then, it's become sort of an anthem against violence against women. And one that we've sung here before, and it's very powerful. So.
With the help
Thank you, Jen and Three Rivers singers. I'm tempted to say from your lips to God's ears, but maybe it's more appropriate to say, may your voices be heard deeply by all. I think, forgot to do that earlier. Sorry about that. I think that, as Bill Bryson said, that Australia is clearly a place worth getting to know. Rereading his book, which was first published in the year 2000, it struck me again and again how he writes as a citizen of the nation to our south. He was born in the Midwest city, Des Moines, Iowa, and wrote the book not long after he had returned from the States from teaching in England. But the English influence doesn't come across. I think he was writing to a U.S. population. We here in another Commonwealth country pay more attention to Australia than the folks south of our border. So I just want to say I know that, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad for that. And a couple of small points before I really get into the heart of it. Two items I want to pick up from Bill Bryson's reading earlier. For the record, Australia's current Prime Minister is Anthony Albanese. He, as far as I know, has not gone missing. In fact, his birthday was yesterday. He's now 61. Isn't Google wonderful? And second, on the possibility that in 1993, Aum Shinrikyo may have detonated a nuclear blast in the Australian outback, the article that Bryson quotes from by William Broad, January 21st, 1997, from the New York Times, and indeed it was section C, page 1. The article concludes that it is very likely that the seismic event was an impact of a meteorite, although at that time they hadn't found the crater that would have developed. The Australian outback is so vast that perhaps we shouldn't be surprised by that. Although there are things like spy satellites that should have good coverage, so one really doesn't know. What I can tell you is that in my research in the last couple of weeks, I read some scientific papers about Shinrikyo's terrorism and what they were wanting to do, and no one really mentioned that seismic event in Australia from '93. So I think it's one of those things that's been shoved under the rug. We simply don't know. I included the reading for its dramatic impact and the possibilities that exist in this wide and almost often enough wonderful world in which we live. When I showed the picture of baby Lucas earlier, darling kid, 3 months old. There's a bit of a backstory that I didn't share earlier. His parents met in college in Ohio in the U.S., and there he also became the father became the best friend of my stepson, CJ. Lucas's mother ran away from home during college when her family planned a planned marriage for her. This was something she would not want in her life. She ran away from home and hasn't had contact with her birth family in 15 years now. So I'm being a little careful, and I'm not sharing her or her husband's names, and I won't share pictures, although I'd really like to. I'm really proud of them. I couldn't help But remember, there's a lot of stuff about Australia I can say, but there's one thing I want to say first, and I think I was going to end with this, but I'm going to share it now. When I was a young tyke in high school, tyke and high school don't go together, but it feels like that now. My youth group gave the service in my senior year in high school, and I preached for the first time. And afterward, I remember there was a young couple in the congregation. I think both of them were therapists, but it really doesn't matter. And they said, you know, Eric, you'll really want to get married. You'll really want to be a parent. We're finding that our friends who are parents are so much more mature than our friends who aren't yet. And I've carried that with me my whole life. I've not really ever talked about it. But I watched this young couple working their lives around, they were centering their lives on their boy. And it was clear that that was absolutely necessary. And it was clear that this was also a work in progress. They were getting used to it. And I realized that without having been a parent, I've centered my whole life on me. And yes, my work and others, which is very outward facing, but I've been the center of my life, and how challenging it would be to take a new life and say, that's my goal, that's my center. Absolutely necessary, absolutely worthwhile, but such a different way of orienting our lives. So for all of you grandparents and parents out there, know that I'm kind of in awe, and thank you. Thank you. Australia and the meetings. I don't want to share too much of a travelogue. You and I had 5 other pictures I was going to share. You're not here for a slideshow. We can talk about those later. Australia is a place worth getting to know. It is different from us in so many ways, and especially here in Canada as another Commonwealth country, so similar. Another opposite, nearly opposite sides of the world, similar populations, similar challenges. One thing I noticed, and it was told very early, and we know that we've had fires here, and Australia has had fires that are pretty much directly caused by the climate crisis. The thing I hadn't anticipated was the ozone layer over the Antarctic is extremely thin, still. And so being in Melbourne, the southern part of Australia, the ozone layer is pretty thin over that region of the world as well, to the effect that 2 out of every 3 people in Australia over a certain age will develop skin cancer during their lifetime. 2 out of 3. I was told that Australia has the highest incidence of skin cancer because of that in the entire world. You can tell, I've been in deserts before, didn't get to an Australian desert, but the sun feels more hazardous, impactful. It was just, I didn't want to be out in the sun. Anyhow, that's not at all poetic. And they have their problems just like everyone. While we were there, they were finding a whole number of city parks in Sydney where asbestos was showing up in the wood chips, in the mulch. Why would you put asbestos in mulch? This was going to take a long time for them to overcome. One thing, the young family and my wife Ann and I were sitting around and watching television. There was a travelogue about Australia, And I said, well, we're on YouTube for that. I want to show you something that I've really appreciated on YouTube. It's a group called, a very satiric group called The Juice Media. Does anyone know this? Yeah, I figured you would, Mike. And so I introduced them to The Juice Media and the work of Giovanni Nana. And they said, well, we've got some Canadian content for you. And they put on a young guy with a good Canadian beard talking about the differences of Canadian provinces. And I said, that guy looks familiar. What's the name of it? Kopke 613. Kopke? That's Sam Kopke, who grew up in this congregation, the son of our former minister, Reverend Brian Kopke, who I led the memorial for last October. It's a small world, folks. It's a small, small world. And if you're up for YouTube videos that include expletives every 7 words, I recommend Kopke 613 to you. And if you're interested in some Aussie sass on the political and environmental climate, look for The Juice Media. There's a fascinating interview Giordano did with Canadian David Suzuki last fall. It was taken in Suzuki's home in Vancouver. So we'll leave that there. A few weeks ago, we had a little bat here in Worship Hall. It was found. And my wife and I had a bat in where we live. There are little bats around here. The bats in Australia are frickin' huge. And they fly not like the little bats we have here. They fly kind of like birds. My brother lives in Austin, Texas, and Austin is famous for, under the bridge going over the river, bats come out at night by the hundreds of thousands. And he's taken me there to see it. It's a sight. And there's a park in the east side of Melbourne where gray-headed fox bats come out. And the pictures wouldn't show up. I tried. Their wingspan is like this big. And there are maybe 30, 40,000 of them, and they just cover the sky, and you're like, anyhow, magical moment, magical moment. But to see, finally, the Southern Cross, to know what that reference is of, and to see the constellation Orion, the hunter, the warrior perhaps of the song, but upside down. What a wonderful world we live in. What a wonderful world. I'm hesitating. I apologize. This has been unfocused. There simply was too much for me to pull together for you this morning. And I apologize for that. But I will leave you with 2 little things. The first is really, really little. Did a series of reality television called Married at First Sight ever come to Canada? Be glad it didn't. It was on. My wife is now addicted. Australia is in its 11th season of this. Married at First Sight. What a terrible thing. I watched 2 episodes with the family, and I was banned from watching any more. It upset me so much. I'm going to use a word here. I just don't think we need to feed anyone's taste for batshit insanity. More telling. I remember a ministerial mentor of mine, Rob Eller-Isaacs, and his wife, Jan Eller-Isaacs. And Jan let me know that one of the favorite movies in their household when they wanted to just laugh together as a family was Buckaroo Banzai and the Adventures of the Eighth Dimension, something like that. And in that, and it's a off-the-wall, very, very funny movie if you're into that humor. Otherwise, it just leaves you cold. But in the movie, there's a very wise line. And the line goes, wherever you go, there you are. And I think that's really true. That the world is full of myriad things, and huge bats, and people who put asbestos and mulch and all kinds of stuff. But, there are always similarities wherever we go. And while we have different facets, I think, that come out when we engage different people or go to new locations, there's always a core that stays the same. And I remember Jan sharing that with me. Her husband, Rob, died a year and a half ago. Jan died after a long illness on Valentine's Day. So one of the stones that I dropped was for her. She helped me come into the ministry and gave me faith that there was space for me in this work with all of you. So thank you. The world's a big place, and we are perhaps small within it, but together our influence can be mighty. I'm looking at Dr. Lada there. In the back, there's a bust of Dr. Lada Hishmanova, who is a member of this congregation whose influence is still going on. I think I'm going to have to preach about her or have someone who knows more about her to preach on her. She deserves our attention. Anyhow, it's great to be back home. Let's continue in our morning.
I invite the ushers to start passing the baskets at this time. This congregation has a long history of care, vitality, and bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We have been able to live into our hopes and dreams because of the generosity of those within and beyond this community. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or anywhere else, you are a part of this community. To make a gift in support of the work of this congregation, you don't need to use the baskets that are now beginning to make their way among our pews. Wherever you are invited to go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how to make a donation or to keep up with your pledge. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And now, please rise as you are willing and able. As we join together in our closing hymn in honor of Black History Month, we are number 1051 in our teal hymnal.
Please be seated. Before we begin to close this time of worship and reflection, a reminder that coffee hour will begin in Fellowship Hall immediately after the service. If you are new here, still feel new, or simply welcome conversation today, please pick up a green mug as you enter Fellowship Hall. Doing so will help others who look forward to a good conversation find you. Now, I looked this week but didn't check in with Sharon Ajaski. Are the leafy greens that are growing there, are they available yet? They look a little young yet to be harvested. You're saying go for it? Go for it. Thank you. And with that positive news, we extinguish our chalice this morning to these words from Barbara Peskin. We can extinguish this flame now because we know in each of us grows the truth and the love to help all of us light the way together. May we carry the flame forward. Blessed are we and blessed may we be. Go in peace. And she closes, go making peace. This morning's chalice is extinguished, but the spark of our connections and faith remain. Jen and singers, will you please bless us again by leading us in our closing song?
With
as now we return to the challenge of helping the world come alive in love, let us go in peace. And in the words of Barbara Peskin, go making peace. Amen.